Hello my amiable students. In this lesson we'll be looking at karst topography or karst region. When we say karst topography, we mean an expanse of land that has calcite or limestone materials. We're also going to be looking at the basic features and characteristics of this kind of topography as well as its associated landforms. Sit back, relax, we'll be right back. A karst topography or karst region is used to describe an expanse of land or a scenery that has its lithosphere or its topography to be made up of calcite, limestone, or calcium carbonate. This makes the whole of that topography to be bleak and barren due to absence of surface water. When there is precipitation or rains in form of snow, sleet, rain or whatever, they tend to percolate underground due to some certain situations, like one, the jointed form of that topography and the nature of the rock that tend to be porous and permeable. Then the water will now percolate underground. Then another is absence of vegetation, which makes the whole place to be bleak and barren. First, let's look at the nature of the rock in karst topography or region. In karst topography or region, there is a great extent of underground water in many forms, either as spring, verclusions, resurgence, wells, or underground water in the aquifer. Rock in the karst region or elsewhere that tends to have a permeable surface and ends in its base in an impervious or non-permeable or non-porous base. So because of that, it takes in water and keep it permanently there until water gets to the brim. Then that brim will now be termed the water table. I take that again. An aquifer is a rock whose surface tends to be saturated with water, but its base tends to be non-porous, impermeable, or where water cannot percolate further. Then water will not stay till it gets to the brim. So as it's storing water, whenever it gets to the brim is taken as the water table or the water surface. There is a situation or a chance that if there are rocks underlining each other in differential strata and form, it will now result in spring, where water will be coming out gently from the rock or where water will gush out from the rock. This can be in form of dike or seal that is in between a non-permeable or impervious strata. It can also be in form of a widening hoji or grike that is making water to purge out from the hole. Then it can also be in form of a porous rock in between some non-porous or impervious rock. So when the porous rock tend to saturate water, then water will resurface and go back as spring. Then apart from that, we also have alternate rock bases or alternate rock forms, where the first porous part will make water to percolate underground till water gets to an impervious part that will now make the water to resurface. So when the water resurfaces, we now see there is resurgence or other emergent of water that are called verclusions. We also have artesian wells. Artesian wells are natural spring or natural well of water, or a place or a base where water tend to lodge in the basin or a trough of a syncline, and the water will now stay there permanently forever, and people can fetch the water in form of artesian well. They can also tend to dig up holes or puncture holes on the surface to get water as artificial wells. Let's now look at characteristics of the surface of the karst topography. The karst topography is very bleak in nature. That means it is barren due to absence of surface water. Also, it has little or no vegetation, as the plants will not survive for a longer time when the water at the base is not there and percolates underground. So the limestone area is not very fertile, but important for the quarry or mining for construction. Presence of scattered rock or joints, holes, or widened holes of different forms. There are also pavement in forms of cone, steps, or normal pavement. They also have carvings and caves from holes that have been coalesced or depressed to form big holes. Then there is also absence of surface drainage, as all forms of water tend to percolate underground. So there is a tendency to have differential rocks being in the layers or strata of the earth surface or on the lithosphere. That means if we have a particular rock that is permeable, there is a tendency that the one underneath might be impermeable, or we can have two porous rock in between a porous rock. So because of that, there is a little bit of confusion in bleakness, stability, and fertility in karst region. But all that notwithstanding though, the karst region is very good for quarry or mining of lateralized materials or limestone for building or construction. That is why one of its importance is the nearness of cement industry to the regions. The region also has other materials that are very useful, like kaolin, calcite, and dolomite. Then, looking at the features in limestone region, first we have joints. Joints are cracks, web or web form in the topography or lithosphere. Over time, they tend to expand to make what we refer to as holes, swallow holes, or sink holes. In between these holes, pavement that are raised up very high are called or termed limestone pavement. Others that are not very high are referred to as clints in their form. Then there is a tendency for two holes, two joints, to coalesce or depress to form a larger or smaller holes. So when two sinkholes depress to form another hole that is larger than them, we refer to that hole as uvula. Uvula is a hole that is greater than sinkhole but still having a rounded base. Then we also have what we refer to as poggi. Poggi are very great holes that has been made with depression or very large depressions of uvula. Then they have flat bottoms where water can gather, reside before they now percolate underground, and they will now form a dry valley. So dry valley are also very handy in limestone region. Then in limestone regions, we also have caves and cavings that are made from depression in between strata, where you have a very porous rock in between two rocks that are hard and or no porous. After the porous rock has been excavated or dissolved by water or other runoffs, it will now form a hole that will be of different shapes and different occurrence, like the precipitation of calcite at the top of the cave and at the bottom of the cave. So precipitation of calcite and other carbonate materials at the top of the cave is called stalactite, while those that will be formed at the base is called stalagmite. So in the cave, when a stalagmite and a stalactite tend to join together to form a pinnacle that is like a pillar, we refer to it as limestone pillar. So in a limestone cave, after a soluble material or strata has been removed, it will now form a caving or a great hole. We also have other features of limestone materials like karst cones, dry valleys, porges, uvulas, and others. What are the importance of the limestone topography or limestone region? Limestone topography are very helpful, especially due to their lateralized materials or the soil parts that they have. They are rich in limestone, dolomite, kaolin, and other materials. This makes cement industry to be very close to the region. Dolomites are handy for the construction and beautification of art materials or buildings. The mining of kaolin also takes place in this region. Though the region is not very good for surface vegetation, where there is dry valley during some times of the year, when that dry valley tend to gather mud and certain grasses spring up, it is helpful for grazing of animals around that environment. Where exactly do we have this kind of topography around the world? First, we have karst topography in Karst in South Africa. We also have karst topography in Yorkshire in England. Then we also have it elsewhere around the world in Yugoslavia and closer to Nigeria, or closer to our home in Nigeria, in Ewekoro, Nkwalagu, Obela, and other places.